The campfire encounter. The night on planet Gravos 9 was colder than usual. Icy wind cut through the trees like invisible knives. Corporal Jack sat alone near his small fire, the orange glow lighting up the muddy ground and his tired face. His unit had been wiped out 3 days ago in an ambush. Now he was the only human left in this part of the forest. He wrapped his arms around himself and pulled the sleeping bag tighter. His fingers were numb. The food supply was low. But more than hunger or cold, it was the silence that hurt. No voices, no radio signals, just the wind. Then he heard it. Crunch. A soft footstep. Not far. Jack's hand moved quickly to his pulse rifle, eyes scanning the shadows beyond the firelight. Crunch. Crunch. Someone, or something, was coming closer. His heart pounded. From the dark, a shape appeared. It wasn't big, it wasn't armored, it was small and fragile looking. A girl, but not human. She had pale silver skin, large glowing violet eyes, and long blue hair that looked tangled and dirty. Her arms were thin. She wore torn fabric wrapped around her like a robe, and she was shivering badly. She stepped into the light, slowly, both hands raised to show she had no weapon. Jack didn't lower his rifle. Stop. She didn't understand the word, but she stopped anyway. The girl looked terrified. Her lips trembled. Her feet were bare and covered in bruises. There were old wounds on her arms. She looked hungry and scared. For a moment, both just stared at each other. Jack lowered his gun slightly. You lost? She tilted her head. The firelight danced in her eyes. She didn't speak, but she pointed at the fire, then rubbed her arms. She was cold. Jack sighed. His instincts told him to send her away. She could be a trap, a scout, anything, but something about her and didn't feel like danger. She looked broken, like a lost child. He grabbed one of his ration bars and tossed it toward her. It landed near her feet. She jumped, startled, then slowly bent down, picked it up and sniffed. Jack nodded. Eat. She looked at him, then back at the food. Her hand shook as she took the first bite. Suddenly she dropped to her knees and began to cry. Silent tears rolled down her cheeks as she chewed. Jack blinked, unsure what to do. Hey. It's okay. The alien girl wiped her face, then looked up at him. She tried to speak, but her voice was soft and broken. Strange words, her language. Jack leaned forward. I don't understand you, she pointed to herself. Leary. He paused. Leary? She nodded weakly. Leary. Then she pointed to him. Jack, he said. Leary tried to repeat it. Jock. Close enough. Jack looked at her again. Her skin was still shaking from the cold. The fire helped, but not much. The forest nights on Gravos 9 were deadly. Without shelter, she might not survive till morning. Jack sighed. He pulled his sleeping bag open, then tapped the empty space beside him. Come here. Leary looked confused. He pointed to the fire, then to the sleeping bag, then patted the empty spot again. She stepped closer, slowly, watching his face the whole time. Then, as if scared he'd change his mind, she carefully slipped into the bag beside him. Jack turned slightly to give her space. It was tight, but warm. Her skin was colder than he expected. Her small body curled up beside him like a frightened animal. They didn't speak. Just lay there under the stars with the fire crackling beside them. But then, Leary moved. She turned to face Jack. One hand gently touched his chest, over his heart. She pressed her palm against it, as if trying to feel the rhythm. Jack didn't move. He didn't understand what she was doing. Leary closed her eyes and whispered something in her own language. It sounded like a prayer. Then she slowly rested her head against his chest. She wasn't afraid anymore. Jack looked down at her. This alien girl had just walked into his camp from the forest. Cold, alone, terrified. And now, she was sleeping against him like she had finally found peace. He looked up at the stars. Maybe, just maybe, the universe still had some kindness left. The unexpected. The sun was rising slowly over the alien forest. Pale blue light slipped between the tall trees, casting long shadows across the ground. The fire had burned low and the cold air had returned. Jack opened his eyes. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he felt it. Warmth beside him. He turned his head slowly. Leary was still there. Her silver skin glowed gently in the morning light. Her head rested on his chest. Her hand was still over his heart. She had stayed close all night. No tricks. No sudden attack. Just quiet breathing and soft sleep. Jack didn't move. He didn't want to break the moment. He just watched her. This strange alien girl who had come out of nowhere trusted him and cried when he gave her food. Leary stirred slightly. Her eyelids fluttered open. Her violet eyes met his. She didn't speak, just looked. Then she smiled. It was a small, tired smile, but real, the kind that made her look more human than alien. Jack gave a half smile back. Morning. Of course she didn't understand, but she felt the tone. She nodded gently and sat up. She looked around the forest, then at the fire. Her expression changed. She placed her hand on her chest and said a word softly. Tiana. Jack raised an eyebrow. Tiana? Leary nodded. She pointed at herself, then repeated it again. Tiana. She looked at him expectantly. Was it her name? No. She'd said Leary last night. Jack pointed at his own chest. Jack. Leary smiled. Again. Jacques. Then she reached out and gently touched his chest over his heart again. Tiana, she whispered. Now Jack understood. It didn't mean her name, it meant heart or maybe. Thank you. She looked down, then did something strange. She reached into the torn cloth she wore and pulled out a small glowing stone, no bigger than a coin. She held it with both hands, bowed her head, then slowly placed it into Jack's hand. Jack was confused. What's this? The stone felt warm. It pulsed with a soft light, like a heartbeat. Leary gently closed his fingers around it. She looked at him, serious now. Her voice was soft but firm. You keep. Jack's eyes widened. She just spoke a human word. His word. You understand that? He asked. Leary nodded slowly. Little. Here, long time. She pointed toward the sky, then mimicked a listening motion, then pointed at him. Jack realized she had heard human broadcasts before. She'd picked up small words. He stared at the glowing stone in his hand. Why are you giving this to me? Leary didn't answer. She just sat quietly looking into the trees. Suddenly, a distant sound, a soft hum, mechanical. Jack turned fast, grabbing his rifle. Leary's eyes widened in fear. She scrambled back and crouched behind him, clutching his jacket. The sound grew louder. A scout drone floated into view, black metal, red light blinking. It hovered above the trees like a silent predator. Jack ducked behind a tree, pulling Leary with him. He aimed the rifle, breathing slow. The drone scanned the area. Jack whispered, "Don't move." Leary was frozen. Her whole body trembled. She stared at the drone like it was death itself. Jack's mind raced. If that drone reported back, they'd both be hunted. He had two choices: shoot it and risk exposure, or let it pass and stay hidden. The drone turned slowly, then zipped away. Jack sighed in relief. But Leary didn't calm down. She was whispering something over and over. Her hands shook. Jack looked at her. What is it? She looked at him, eyes full of fear. Then she whispered two words in broken English. They find me. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Who? He asked. Leary pointed up to the sky. Bad. Men. Take, hurt, kill, I run. Jack's jaw clenched. She wasn't, just lost. She was running from someone. He grabbed his bag, stuffed in the rations, and stood. Then we move. Leary looked at him, surprised. You help? Jack looked her in the eyes. You crawled into my sleeping bag. That means we're a team now. She blinked, then gave him a slow, grateful nod. Jack didn't know what dangers were out there, but he knew one thing. He wasn't letting this girl go alone. They're hunting her. The forest felt different now. Every tree, every shadow, every whisper of wind seemed to hide danger. Jack and Leary moved quickly, staying low and silent. Jack led, rifle in hand. Leary followed close behind, her bare feet barely making a sound on the mossy ground. She didn't speak much, but Jack could see it in her eyes. She was scared. Not just of the cold. Not just of being alone. She was being hunted. They had walked for 2 hours since the drone sighting. Jack kept checking the sky. Nothing yet, but he knew it was just a matter of time. Leary, Jack whispered. Who are they? Leary looked down, then stopped walking. She slowly raised her sleeve, showing her arm. Jack's eyes narrowed. There were strange metal dots pressed into her skin. Like old implants, the skin around them was scarred, burned. He gently touched one. She flinched, but didn't pull away. They take me, she said, voice shaking. Put me in glass. Watch me hurt me. Jack felt anger boil inside him. Humans? He asked. She shook her head. Not all. Some look human, but eyes empty. Not like you. She paused, then looked up at him. You feel. That one word hit Jack harder than a bullet. You feel. Jack looked around. The trees were getting thinner. He spotted a rocky cliff nearby. A better place to hide. Come on, he said. We'll rest up there. They reached a flat ledge under the cliff wall. From here, Jack could see the sky through the trees, and more importantly, hear any approaching aircraft. He set down his bag and motioned for Leary to sit. She did, but her body was shaking again. Jack poured some water into a tin cup and handed it to her. You okay? She sipped slowly. Her lips were blue, but she nodded. Then suddenly, she gasped. Jack turned fast. 3 dots of red light appeared on the cliff wall. Laser sights. Jack pushed Leary down and grabbed his rifle. Get down! A loud blast echoed through the trees. A bullet hit the rocks above them, spraying dust. Leary screamed. Jack fired back blindly toward the forest. He saw shadows moving. At least 2 attackers, maybe more. He grabbed Leary's hand. We need to run now! They bolted up the slope, rocks sliding under their feet. Another shot rang out, barely missing Jack's leg. They ducked behind a fallen log. Jack fired 2 more shots, then pulled Leary into a narrow crack between the rocks. Breathing hard, Jack looked at her. We're not safe here. Leary nodded, tears in her eyes. Then she did something that stunned him. She raised her hand, and it began to glow. A soft white-blue light pulsed from her palm. Her eyes turned brighter like 2 stars. Jack stared. What are you? Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot from her hand, smashing into the trees. The blast knocked one of the attackers backward, throwing him through the air. Leary fell to her knees, exhausted. Jack helped her up, stunned. You had powers this whole time? She looked weak, dizzy. Not strong. Only when scared. Jack nodded. Good. Stay scared then. He smiled. She let out a small laugh, even while shaking. They didn't wait to see if the others would return. They ran. They found an old wreck in the forest, an abandoned drop pod half buried in vines. Jack checked it. Still dry inside. They climbed in and locked the hatch. Inside, it was quiet. Safe. Leary curled up in the sleeping bag, shivering from the cold and the fear. Jack sat beside her, cleaning his rifle. He looked at her. You have any more of that blast power? She shook her head. Only little. After I sleep. Jack nodded. Then you rest. I'll keep watch. Before she closed her eyes, she looked at him and whispered, "They want me. Because I glow. Because my blood has light." Jack didn't understand at first. Then he remembered the glowing stone she gave him. Her blood glowed too. He realized something. She wasn't just rare. She was valuable. Maybe even powerful, and that meant they weren't going to stop chasing her. Jack checked the rifle again. "They'll have to get through me first," he muttered. Leary didn't hear him. She was already asleep, but she slept with her hand on his jacket, holding tight, like she believed him. The hidden cave rain poured from the sky like sheets of glass. The alien jungle echoed with thunder. Jack's boots sank deep into the wet mud as he helped Leary walk. She leaned on him, weak and shaking. Her glowing energy had not returned. They were both soaked, cold, and exhausted. Jack's eyes scanned the hills around them. He was looking for anything, a cave, a hole, even a tree hollow, to hide before night fell again. Behind them, the sound of distant aircraft rumbled. The hunters were still searching. "We need shelter," Jack muttered. Leary raised her head, eyes dull with exhaustion. Then she suddenly stopped. She looked to the side, toward a cluster of thick vines covering part of a cliff. She pointed weakly. "There." Jack narrowed his eyes. It looked like a wall of tangled plants, but he trusted her. He slashed the vines with his knife and revealed a dark, narrow cave entrance behind them. Without another word, they slipped inside. The cave was deeper than Jack expected. Cool air brushed against their skin. Strange glowing moss covered the walls in soft purple light. The stone felt smooth and unnatural, not just rock, but shaped, carved. "Someone built this," Jack whispered. Leary's eyes widened. Her steps slowed. She touched the walls gently, like she remembered them. "This old before war." Jack looked at her. "You've been here before?" She shook her head. "My people come from these builders long ago." They moved deeper. The path opened into a larger chamber. In the center, a round platform sat with alien symbols carved in glowing blue lines. It looked like a forgotten temple. Leary walked to the center and knelt. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small stone, the one she gave Jack. It still pulsed with soft light. She held it up to the wall. The symbols around her began to glow brighter. Then slowly, a hologram activated. The chamber filled with floating light. Jack stepped back, stunned. A giant map of stars appeared above them, showing galaxies, planets, ships, then images of Leary's people. Tall, beautiful, glowing beings. Peaceful. Holding strange crystals. Then came black ships, weapons, fire, destruction. Jack saw it clearly. Her people were attacked, captured, experimented on. The last image showed Leary as a child, crying in a glass chamber while cold-eyed men in armor stared at her through the glass. Jack clenched his fists. Bastards. The hologram faded. Leary fell forward, breathing hard. The light had drained her. Jack ran to her side and caught her. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "Now, you see?" He helped her lie down on the soft moss. Jack looked around. This place wasn't just a cave, it was her history, her truth, hidden where no one could find it except her. And now, him. The fire Jack built inside the cave flickered gently. Leary slept under the sleeping bag again. Jack sat nearby, rifle beside him. He looked at the small stone she had given him. It still glowed softly. He realized something. This stone wasn't just a gift. It was a key. Maybe to power. Maybe to truth. But more than anything, it was trust. She gave it to him, not because she had to, but because she believed in him. That thought sat heavy in Jack's chest. He had seen war. He had seen betrayal. But this girl, this strange alien girl, had given him something purer than any soldier ever did. Hope. Suddenly, Leary stirred. She looked up at him through half-closed eyes. "You stay?" she whispered. Jack blinked. "Of course." She reached out and gently touched his face. "You are not like them." Jack gave a tired smile. "Neither are you." Leary's eyes welled with tears. "You warm, you fight, you care." Then she surprised him again. She leaned forward and placed a soft kiss on his forehead. Jack froze. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't a trick. It was a gesture, a thank you, a promise, a bond. Outside the cave, the rain fell harder. But inside, two souls from different worlds shared warmth, silence, and trust. Neither knew what tomorrow would bring, but both had decided one thing. They would face it together. The ambush. The morning came with silence. No birds. No wind. Just the heavy quiet that meant something was wrong. Jack felt it before he opened his eyes. He sat up quickly, hand on his rifle. Leary was still asleep, breathing softly under the sleeping bag. The glowing moss in the cave had dimmed. Jack stood and walked toward the cave entrance. The sky outside was gray and low. The jungle beyond the cliff was too still. He scanned with his scope. Tracks. Fresh boot prints in the wet mud. Not his. Not hers. Damn. He rushed back to Leary and gently shook her. "Leary, wake up." She blinked, confused. "What is?" "They found us." Her eyes widened. Fear returned like a shadow. "Go to the back of the cave," Jack said. "Now." She hesitated. Jack took her hand. "I'll draw them away. You wait for my signal." She gripped his arm tightly. "Don't leave." "I'll come back. I promise." She stared into his eyes, then slowly nodded. Jack gave her a small smile, then turned and moved fast. Jack crept through the trees, scanning every leaf, every sound. He could feel them getting closer. Then, movement. Two men in black armor, one carrying a scanner, the other holding a shock spear. They were moving toward the cliff. Jack raised his rifle and aimed for the scanner. Bang! The scanner exploded in sparks. The men ducked and shouted. Jack rolled behind a tree and fired again, hitting one in the leg. He screamed. But then, more soldiers appeared. 5. No. 6. Too many. Jack turned to run, but something struck his side. A stun dart. His legs weakened. He fell to the ground. 2 soldiers rushed him. One kicked away his rifle. Another pressed a shock baton to his chest. Jack's body jolted as pain surged through him. He screamed, "Where's the girl?" The leader shouted. Jack didn't answer. "Where is she?" The soldier raised his fist again. Then the forest exploded with light. A beam of glowing blue energy smashed into one of the soldiers, sending him flying into the trees. They turned around, confused, blinded. Leary stood at the top of the slope, eyes glowing bright, arms raised. She looked like a star had been born in her chest. With a shout, she threw another blast. 2 soldiers dropped their weapons and fled. Jack, barely able to lift his head, watched in awe. Leary ran to him, glowing hands touching his face. "You hurt?" she whispered. She closed her eyes, and her hands pulsed again. Warmth. His pain faded. His breathing calmed. Jack gasped. "You healed me?" Leary looked tired. "Little bit. Not all." The remaining soldiers regrouped, shouting commands, raising weapons. Jack grabbed his rifle again. "We're not done yet." He stood beside Leary. "Ready to fight?" She nodded, though her legs trembled. They stood together, human and alien, side by side, as the enemy advanced. Jack took aim, but before the first shot could fire, a sudden roar filled the air. A ship, black and sleek, descended from the clouds above the jungle, engines screaming. Not the enemy, not human, alien. Leary's eyes widened. She grabbed Jack's arm. "My people, they heard my signal!" The soldiers began to retreat. The alien ship opened its hatch mid-air. A blinding beam of light shot down, teleporting Jack and Leary into safety. In a flash, they were gone. Jack dropped to his knees as the teleport ended. Bright white corridors, smooth silver walls. Tall aliens with glowing eyes rushed over. They were like Leary, but older and stronger. One helped Jack to his feet. Another knelt by Leary, speaking quickly in her language. Jack looked at her. "Are you safe now?" Leary nodded, smiling through tears. "Because of you?" One of the aliens approached Jack. "You protected the last Starborn. You risked your life. You are not like the others." Jack looked at Leary. "She saved me too." The alien leader gave a deep nod. "Then you are one of us now." Jack blinked. "Wait. What?" Leary stepped closer. "You came back for me. You kept your promise. No one has done that before." She reached for his hand and held it, revealing her secret. The alien ship flew smoothly through the clouds of Gravos 9, leaving the jungle and war behind. Inside, everything was quiet, peaceful. Jack stood near the large window, looking down at the planet's surface. Forest stretched below. Somewhere down there was the cave, the fire, and the place where he had first met Leary. Now, everything had changed. Leary walked in behind him, dressed in clean, soft silver robes. Her bruises were gone. Her skin glowed faintly again, but her eyes still held something heavy. Jack looked at her through the glass. "You okay?" She nodded, but slowly. "It's not over yet." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She came closer and pointed to the stars above. "My people are not all safe. Many are still in cages, still hunted." Jack turned to face her fully. "You said this ship belongs to your people. Why not rescue them?" Leary looked down. "Because I am not just one of them." She paused, then took a deep breath. "I am the last daughter of the core flame." Jack blinked. "What does that mean?" Leary raised her hand, and her palm began to glow softly, brighter than before. Symbols appeared along her arm, not tattoos, light marks. Jack watched, stunned. "In my people's history," she explained, "the core flame is the name of the first star. It gave us life and power. Only one child is born with that light every few thousand years." Jack understood now. "You're not just different, you're sacred." Leary nodded. "They chased me, not because I ran, but because they wanted to use my light, to power weapons, to unlock gates, to bend stars." Jack looked into her glowing eyes. "But you're a person, not a tool." Leary smiled softly. "You see me?" Leary led Jack down a long hallway on the ship. At the end was a chamber with floating lights and a single pedestal. On it was a crystal sphere, broken. "My parents died protecting this," Leary whispered. "The heart beacon. It connects our kind across space." Jack leaned closer. "It's damaged?" "Yes," she said. "But it can be restored, with light from the core flame." She looked at him. "But I'm scared, Jack. If I give too much, I might vanish." Jack stepped forward. "Then don't do it." "But if I don't," Leary's voice shook, "my people will stay blind and scattered. No one will know where the others are. No one will come." Jack was silent. Then he took her hand. "You once gave me a stone and shared your sleeping bag." Leary blinked in surprise. Jack continued. "Now it's my turn to give you something. My strength, my trust. Whatever happens, I'm not leaving. Your side." She stared at him for a long second, then smiled and nodded. Leary stepped toward the beacon. Her hands touched the sphere. Her skin began to glow, bright, almost blinding. She cried out softly as the energy flowed out of her and into the broken crystal. It lit up with pulsing waves reaching into the air. Jack rushed to her side and caught her as she staggered. "Leary, I'm okay," she breathed. Then the beacon exploded with light, sending waves of signals into space. Symbols floated. In the air, maps, names, star paths. The message was clear: the last core flame lives, and she is not alone. All across the galaxy, other hidden aliens, her people, would see the light and come. Hope had been reborn. Leary sat quietly in the healing room. Jack stayed beside her, watching her face. She looked tired, pale, but peaceful. "You used your power," Jack said softly. "For them," Leary whispered. "For us." Jack gently touched her shoulder. "What now?" Leary looked up at him. "I can return to my people, become the flame leader, bring our kind back together." Jack nodded. "That sounds amazing. But," she added, "I want you with me." Jack froze. "What?" "You believed in me when no one else did. You shared your world. You stayed through fire and blood. You are not like others." Jack chuckled. "I'm just a soldier." "No," she said seriously. "You're my anchor." Then she held out her hand. "Will you come with me? Into the stars?" Jack looked at her, at the stars beyond the window, and at the sleeping bag she had folded beside her. He laughed. "Only if I get to keep the sleeping bag." Leary smiled, truly smiled for the first time in days. Deal. The rescue and the bond. The stars stretched out like diamonds on black silk. The alien ship floated through space, silent and smooth. Inside, Jack stood alone at the wide viewing window, his reflection lost in the galaxy. Behind him, the ship was busy. Aliens, Leary's people, were working fast. The heart beacon had sent out its call 2 days ago. Now, ships were answering. From distant parts of space, small fleets responded to the light. Survivors, hidden colonies, families thought lost forever. The core flame had returned, and the galaxy had noticed. Jack touched the glass and whispered, "You did it, Leary." Leary was resting in the healing chamber, her body wrapped in soft, glowing threads. She looked peaceful, but tired. Jack sat beside her, fingers laced together, watching her breathe. She had poured so much energy into the heart beacon. Her skin still glowed faintly, but her light was low. A healer stood nearby. He looked at Jack and bowed. "She will live, but she needs time." Jack nodded. "She's stronger than all of us." The healer gave a soft smile. "She chose you. That means everything." Jack looked back at her. She didn't have to. Hours later, Jack was called to the high room. It was a chamber of floating stone and light. Elders of the flame stood in a circle, tall, graceful beings with glowing veins and long robes. They looked like stars turned into people. In the center was a clear table with glowing images, maps, transmissions, faces. The leader stepped forward. "We received a message," he said. He pressed a glowing icon. A human face appeared, cold, sharp, cruel. Jack recognized him instantly. "Commander Varn," he growled. The elder nodded. He was part of the group that hunted Leary. He now leads a rogue fleet, and he knows she's alive. Jack clenched his fists. "He's coming, isn't he?" "Yes." "With weapons meant to capture the core flame." Another elder spoke, voice like wind. "We will not run, but we cannot risk Leary falling into their hands." Jack looked around the room. "So what's the plan?" Jack stood on the command deck, watching the crew prepare. Shields powered up, weapon systems locked in. The alien ships didn't look like warships, but now they had no choice. He turned to the lead tactician. "Position our ship near the asteroid field. It'll give us cover." The alien nodded. "And you?" Jack loaded his rifle. "I'll be on the lower decks. If they breach, I'm the last line." He took a deep breath. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but they had something more powerful than weapons. They had hope. The rogue human fleet arrived in darkness, 6 black ships sliding through space like shadows. Their lights were off. Their weapons armed. Jack saw them appear on the display. Here we go. The first shots hit the outer shields. The alien ship rocked. Jack grabbed a rail. Brace! The enemy ships began launching pods. Small boarding units heading straight for their vessel. Target the pods, Jack shouted. Laser beams fired from the alien ship, taking out some pods, but not all. One pod crashed into the lower deck. Jack ran. The air was full of smoke and light. Human mercenaries in dark suits charged through the hallways, weapons drawn. Jack met them head on. He fired. One dropped. Another came from behind. Jack spun, hitting him with the butt of his rifle. They tried to surround him. Jack ducked, rolled, shot again. But he was one man. They kept coming. Then, a blast of light tore through the hallway. Leary stood at the end of the corridor, her robes glowing, her hands alive with energy. Jack stared. Leary, no! You're still weak! But she didn't stop. She raised both hands and unleashed a wave of pure energy, throwing the attackers backward like leaves in a storm. Jack ran to her. You shouldn't be here. She touched his chest. You stood for me. Now I stand for you. Together they pushed forward. At the heart of the ship, the rogue commander had boarded. Commander Varn, tall, armored, cruel, stood with a plasma blade. He turned as Jack and Leary entered. You again, he sneered. Jack raised his rifle. You came to steal the light again. Varn laughed. That light belongs to the strong. Leary stepped forward, glowing brighter now. No, she said. It belongs to the kind. Varn charged. Jack fired. Leary blasted. The hallway became a blur of fire and light. In the final moment, Varn aimed at Leary, blade ready to strike. Jack dove in front of her. The blade cut into Jack's side. He gasped and fell. Leary screamed. Her hands flared white. She sent a shockwave through the entire ship. Varn flew backward, hit the wall, and didn't get back up. Leary dropped to her knees beside Jack. No, no. Please. Jack smiled through the pain. Told you. I'd stay with you. Her hands shook as she placed them on his wound. I won't let you go. And then, light flowed from her into him. He felt warmth, calm, power. The pain faded. He blinked. He was alive. Leary collapsed into his arms, crying. He held her, and the ship was silent again. Days passed. The fleet of survivors from across the stars had gathered around them. Leary stood in the great hall, wearing robes of golden light. Jack stood beside her. She held out her hand to the crowd. My name is Leary, last of the core flame. No longer alone. She looked at Jack. This man, a human, gave me hope. Shared warmth with me. Fought for me. She turned back to the crowd. Now we build something new. Not war, not fear, but unity. The hall shook with cheers. Later, under a new sky, Jack and Leary stood near a growing city of crystal towers. Alien children ran past, laughing. Families reunited, ships landing with joy. Leary took Jack's hand. You changed everything, she whispered. Jack smiled. No, you did. I just held the sleeping bag. She laughed. And my heart. He looked into her eyes. Where do we go now? She pointed at the stars. Anywhere. Together. Jack squeezed her hand. Then let's go.